All right, we're on column 2, and if you're with me on this video, it's because you need the play-by-play. So let's start. For number 15, these have the same base, and they are being divided, so that means that these are going to be subtracted. Keep in mind that this is really an exponent of 1. So this is going to look like x to the 5th minus 1. And then the same thing is going to go for the y's. We're going to have y to the 6th minus 2. So our final answer would be x to the 4th and y to the 4th. Final answer. 16. Similarly, this is an x squared y to the 5th over x y to the 4th. And these right here are like bases. Put that little 1 there. You've got x squared minus 1, and then y to the 5th minus 4. Again, the reason why you're subtracting is because there's division, and this is going to give you x, y. 17 is misleading. If you just look at the answer for 17 and you don't go through the process, you have no idea how it happened. This one is a little involved. This is 4x to the 5th y over 16x y to the 4th, and this is all raised to the 3rd power. So the first thing that you have to know is that when you have a fraction raised to the 3rd power, that means that the numerator gets raised to the 3rd power and the denominator gets raised to the 3rd power. But before we do that, what I want to try and do is simplify the inside. So I want to work on the inside of the parentheses first, and that will help me move to the 3rd power a little easier. So I'm going to divide these first in the parentheses and get 1/4. Then I'm going to take my x to the 5th over x, and I'm going to subtract these, and I'm going to get x to the 4th, and that goes in the top. Then I'm going to take the y's and subtract them, and that's 1 minus 4, and that gives me y to the -3. And all of that is raised to the 3rd power. The next step is I actually want to make sure that I'm putting my exponents all in positive exponents. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my y to the 3rd and I'm going to move it downstairs to turn my exponent positive. Remember that when you have a negative exponent upstairs, it's a positive exponent downstairs with the same exponent. So this is literally going to just change to 1x to the 4th over 4. The y to the 3rd comes down and becomes a positive exponent, and we're ready to raise that all to the 3rd power. Our very last step is now to distribute this 3rd power to everything on the top and everything on the bottom. So that means that we're going to have a 1 to the 3rd and an x to the 4th to the 3rd. And on the bottom, I'm going to have a 4 to the 3rd and then a y to the 3rd to the 3rd. So literally every single term is going to get that outside exponent. Last step. Let's reduce or simplify. So 1 to the 3rd is 1. X to the 4th raised to the 3rd is a power to a power, so you do multiplication. That's x to the 12th. Over 4 to the 3rd is 4 times 4 times 4, which is 64. And y to the 3rd raised to the 3rd is another power to power, so you multiply those and get y to the 9th. So your final answer is x to the 12th over 64, y to the 9th. Whew, that was a doozy. Now we're going to transition and we're going to do number 18, which is similar in practice to number 17. So hopefully, now that we've talked about 17, you'll be able to understand 18 a little better. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this in focus. There we go. So this fraction is 5x to the third y over 20x y to the fifth. And that's all raised to the fourth power. So again, my focus is trying to simplify what I can on the inside so that I can make my outside exponent easier to manage. So I'm going to do 5 divided by 20. I'm going to reduce this fraction. That's going to give me 1/4 again. X to the third divided by x. There's really a 1 here. So that's x to the 3 minus 1. So that's x squared. So that goes on top. And then I have my y's, which is y to the first minus 5, which is y to the -4. As you get good at these, if you realize that it's going to be a -4, you can automatically just make it a +4 on the bottom once you get good at it. I just want to make sure I break it all down so you know where everything's coming from. At this point, I'm going to move this guy downstairs because it's a negative exponent. So we don't keep negative exponents. We make them positive by moving them to the opposite position. So now our fraction is 1x squared over 4y to the fourth. And that's all raised to the fourth power. And now, just like before, we're going to distribute this fourth power to everything on the inside of the numerator and everything on the inside of the denominator. So we're going to have a 1 to the fourth and an x squared to the fourth. This is 4 to the fourth and y to the fourth to the fourth. So every single one of these multiplied terms is going to get a fourth power. Last step, let's clean it up. 1 to the fourth is 1. X squared to the fourth power. We're going to do power to power rule, which is an x to the eighth because we multiply. 4 to the fourth. Ooh, I believe that's 256. Yep. And y to the fourth raised to the fourth. This is again a power rule. That's y to the 16th. So your final answer for number 18 is x to the 8th over 256 y to the 16th. Again, going from our beginning to our end game without going through the process, it's very difficult to see how that would even happen. But I'm glad that you came to the video and you watched the progression of how to make that work so that it's easier for you. The rest of these don't really look that tough. So we should be able to bang through the rest of these pretty fast. Number 19 is a negative exponent. It's just y to the -7. So what you need to realize is that negative exponents need to have their position changed. So this is really y over 1. In order to make a positive exponent, we are going to take it and move it downstairs. So that means that we're going to have y to the +7th downstairs. And that also means that the 1, that's the coefficient in front of y, stays upstairs. So this is your final answer. Next one, number 20, 7 to the -2. So again, this is a negative exponent. We're going to put it over 1. We're going to change position by bringing this negative exponent downstairs and making it positive. And of course, that means that there's a 1 up top because there's always a 1 times this. And then, of course, you can expand this a little bit more, and 7 squared is 49. Next one, 21. 21 says 1 over x to the -5. So this is interesting because in this case, we don't need to put it over 1. This is on the bottom. But this one needs to change position as well. So it's in the denominator right now. To make it positive exponent, you need to move it upstairs to the numerator. So when I do that, I get x to the 5th over 1, which is absolutely still x to the 5th. So when it's a negative exponent upstairs, you move it downstairs. When there's a negative exponent downstairs, you move it upstairs. And that's just how to simplify them into positive exponents. 22, I'm going to slide a little this way. 22, you have 1 over 2 to the negative 4. Again, this negative exponent is downstairs. We are going to change its position by moving it upstairs. And what that does is create a positive exponent of the same one. And again, we're going to put this over 1. 2 to the 4th is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 16. And 16 over 1 is 16. 23, interesting combo here. You have 2 like bases. And when you do this, you keep your base and you add your exponent. So this is 5 plus negative 1. So that's going to be x to the 4th. You keep the base, add your exponents. 24, you have x to the negative 6. Again, this is over 1. So that means that you are going to move this upstairs negative exponent downstairs, make it positive, and make sure you put the 1 on top. 25. I got to turn my page. So close. For 25, we've got x to the 9th times x to the negative 7. Again, they're the like bases. When you multiply, you have to keep the base and add the exponents. So this is 9 plus negative 7, and that is going to give you x squared. And our last one in this column is 26. And here you've got j to the negative 13 times j to the 4th times j to the 6th. And they have these all in parentheses. I use dots, but they use parentheses, so let me fix that. And these are still like bases. So we're going to keep the base, and we're going to add these exponents. So I have negative 13 plus 4 plus 6. And that, my friends, gives us j to the negative 3. However, this is not an appropriate answer because we need all of our answers to be in positive exponent form. So from here, we are going to put this negative exponent over 1. We know that negative exponents change position and move downstairs. So this is going to end up being j to the 3rd downstairs, 1 upstairs, and that is your final answer. Please contact Ms. Meek or myself if you have any questions, and move on to your third column.